excited to be here with the final episode of our December Doing It series. Yes, we are already in January, but I had so many amazing women that I wanted to interview for this series about their leadership and really offer their wisdom and guidance to you in this community and to learn from them as role models as they have done learning from you and people like you over the years. So I've brought in various different corporate badasses that I have the pleasure of working with every single week in my career, in my business. And Brandy is one of those special people that I've known for probably a couple of years now. She found me through my free content and then sort of like came into my world and now has been in all the programs and done all the things, and is just such an example of a woman changing leadership. And I wanted to hear her stories and to share them with you today. So thank you, Brandy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Stacey, and for the lovely introduction as well. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Yeah. Can you take a moment to introduce yourself and let us know what you do?
For sure. So, I mean, you can see my name and title there, Brandy Giannetta. Happy to connect on LinkedIn. Government Affairs with a national industry association in Canada. We're called the Canadian Renewable Energy Association, or CanREA for short, because it's quite the mouthful. We represent wind energy, solar energy, and energy storage companies across Canada and work on favorable policy solutions and regulatory environments, breaking down barriers to accelerate the uptake of wind, solar, and storage in the country. And I get to lead a team of really dynamic professionals, experts in technical acuity, engineers, policy experts, to engage with a really well-versed and diverse membership base. So we are a membership-based organization, which means that I get exposed to the brain trust of the entire industry on a daily basis. That helps me do my job on their behalf. So it's a really great spot to be. I'm a big advocate of the industry association model and happy to be a leader at the table in this model.
Yeah, I love it so much. And your work, I know you're incredibly passionate about your work as well as your leadership. So why don't we start out our conversation today with you describing a little bit more about your leadership style in particular?
Sure. Yeah. And I'm happy to do that. Thanks for the opportunity, because it's really important to me as a leader to be authentic and to reflect the values that I hold close to my heart, as well as outwardly. So when I think about my leadership style, I always think about how I came to get to where I am today, and, making sure that I was building on being my authentic self, always bringing my authentic self to the table. And one of the things that rings true for me on a daily basis is the importance of collaboration and listening and being authentic. I think when I say collaboration, I don't mean just, asking people what they think. It's about talking to people and understanding what motivates them and what my role is in providing them opportunities to succeed. So I'm a very inclusive person by nature, always have been, and I think I always will be. And I bring that to the leadership table as well. My team in particular is unique in the sense that I was their colleague before I was their manager or their boss, if you want to call it that. So I already had a peer-to-peer relationship with all of them prior, or most of them. I've hired a few new people along the way, but I had a peer-to-peer relationship with them. And I wanted to protect and maintain that trust that was already built, but then continue to build on it and gain even more credibility as a leader. So, authentic self never really changed my approach or style, always bringing that, thoughtful, collaborative, and inclusive approach to everything that we do. And I've found it's been really, really motivating for my team members and very satisfying for me to see them succeed in that structure. So if I had to sum it up, if I had to define my leadership style, I'd say I'm collaborative and inclusive.
Yeah. And so by authentic, you just mean like anything goes. Like you can talk to me and I will do the same for you. I'm not going to hide and
don't hide behind process or or the guise of titles or hierarchy. I have the fortunate, we're a pretty flat organization where I am anyway. So like I said, a lot of the folks that are now on my team, I was their peer just a few short years ago. So definitely, nothing in my personality really has changed in that regard because my title changed a few years back. But it's something that I think has also gained me the respect and the credibility as a leader.
Did you always want to do this work in this industry? And is this like what you went to school for? Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and your journey?
For sure. I actually like my story. It's quite full circle. I started off in public policy. I did political science as a degree, if anybody's interested, and did a master's degree and really focused in on public policy development, not so much on the advocacy side, more on the government side. And I did actually work for the government for 10 years. In a political role. So I was very much exposed to a broad cross section of public policy issues, whether it's healthcare, education, labor issues, energy and environment. And I think one of the issues or files that really spoke to me was energy and the environment, a very important and dynamic industry. Always will have a future need for energy and the focus and the maintenance of sustainable and healthy and vibrant environments. So I really do think I was led down the environment and energy path, but really always maintained a focus on public policy. So though I was a public servant of sorts, political staffer for a while, I evolved into advocacy roles in the private sector that really helped me hone a focus in on energy and the environment. And you said it earlier, Stacey, I'm really passionate about renewable energy in Canada in particular. I've been in the industry for 10 years and, in a 20-year career, half of my career has been spent focused on advocacy and growing opportunities for renewable energy. But it's really exposed me to the opportunity to use my unique skill sets, which are around communications, advocacy, strategic thinking and planning, understanding how things work, and making successful strategies and building successful teams to help advance renewable energy in the country. So I've been able to really come full circle from building a whole bunch of skill sets with a bunch of different focal points in policy and public policy and advocacy and communications and issues management into really honing all of that skill set into working specifically for renewable energy uptake in Canada. So I've been really lucky that I've been surrounded by really great people. I think what's very unique about my skill set is that I'm not a technical person, so I don't have an engineering background, and I didn't, graduate wanting to, work with wind turbines and solar panels. It's really about how can I use my really unique leadership skills and skill sets to help a really great industry do even greater things. So I'm really lucky to be here.
I was picturing little Brandy galvanizing everybody together to like solve the world's problems.
Yeah, always the collaborator, natural born leader, I think, is always the one that, even in my family, is there's something to be organized. I got to get the group chat going and, making sure we've all got the process and everybody knows what everybody's doing. And, but I love it. I thrive in that environment. And I love that people look to me for that, to play that role. So it comes naturally for sure.
So good. So speaking of coming naturally, you talked a little bit about your leadership style being authentic and inclusive. And I bet that comes in handy when you're working in challenging and difficult times and difficult situations. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you work with your team and keep them motivated through change and as the world changes and maybe you don't always get what you want.
For sure. I mean, I'm a big fan of wind and solar, and I can talk about it all day and add energy storage to the mix. That's the mandate that I represent on a daily basis. And I think it's a no-brainer, but the rest of the world still needs some coming along. We have to bring them along for the ride. So as passionate and as convinced as I am about those things, the job is very challenging at times. And we have a lot of work to do to ensure that our technologies are the, top of choice for governments, regulators, and consumers alike. So it's not always easy, even though we think it's a no-brainer. There's a lot of work to be done, and my team works really, really hard. And one of the things that I am really conscious about when leading them through these challenging situations is that, having the strength of our convictions matters. Believing in what we do matters, and being able to communicate why it's important, what we're doing, and why we think we need to do it a certain way, that matters. So the strength of our convictions is something that I lead with. And if we ever waver in that, then we need to, reset, adjust. But one of the ways that we maintain that strength is through daily communications with each other. So getting on, a video call, because we're spread out across the country, our national association, making sure that we're having conversations about the challenges that we're facing on a daily basis or bigger picture challenges, and working through collaboration. I would never sit back and assume to, tell anybody this is what you need to do. I ask, what do you think we need to do? what do you need to do that? How can I help? And I ask a lot of questions instead of telling people what they might be facing. And I think that's where the natural collaborative inclusive component comes in. And if we're not talking to each other every day, then we're not really learning and growing together. And I think that it's something that I can say handily over the last 2 years. I've seen my team members, old and new, grow and learn in this environment and adapt to that collaborative nature where nobody's in this on their own. I have individual directors working in alone in provinces across the country. They're only a phone call away or a video chat away. So I really think that we just constantly stay in communication. We brainstorm, we collaborate, we pull in resources external sometimes when we need them. And there's an abundance mindset across the board. There's nothing we can't do. Just let's figure out what we need to do it.
And you spoke earlier about how a lot of the people on your team were originally your peers. And I know that you've been in the unique situation that you've hired basically a new team underneath you in the last 6 months almost, So how do you work with a team that they're coming from different places? Some people have been there for a while. Some people have this connection with you that other people don't. So how has that kind of played out for yourself?
Yeah, it's great. And it's still a work in progress, but I'm actually happy to spend some time thinking about and articulating it out loud because I do think it's working well. I've leaned heavily on my senior directors to play an active role in the onboarding of new staff, teaching them sort of the culture of the workplace, but as a peer-to-peer relationship. So really pushed and encouraged those forums to be formalized, but also less structured through casual points of connection where I'm the go-to, I'll sign off on all the things, but, talk to senior director 1 or senior director 2, get some insight from them on how they might approach it. So shooting the breeze kind of conversations. And that has worked for twofold. One, for the new employee to have a built-in network and confidence of knowing who to go to for what. If it's much more strategic, approval-based things, they can come to me. If it's more like I'm trying to figure out how to hook my printer up to the network, and they can talk to their colleague about that kind of thing and saying like just the shooting the breeze and learning the ropes kind of conversations, but then watching and learning their colleagues and how they approach challenges. I've encouraged them to actually create a bi-weekly call where I'm not on it. Just the group gets together and they have a peer-to-peer. They can talk about work and get in the weeds on issues, or they can just, they can vent or solve problems or whatever they want to do. They can talk about the weather. But then the secondary part of that value chain that I think I've created is for my senior directors. I've elevated them into a role of leadership, honing in on how do they want to approach that peer-to-peer relationship? How do they want to support that new team member? Is it through, giving them direction and oversight? Is it becoming their friend? I think there's a lot of ways that they can hone their skills, and I've encouraged them to do that. Think about your leadership skills and your style and what you want to do and how you want to lead, and start implementing that on our own team. So I've empowered some folks on the team to, hone their leadership skills, but I've also put in, I think, some pretty solid supports for the newcomers to integrate into the team. And also at the same time, think about what do I want? What role do I want to play on this team? So always just keeping people thinking, don't just show up and do your job. That's fine. That's the bare minimum. But bring those wants and desires to the workplace. And let's talk about how we can hone those skills for you.
If you're listening to Brandy and you're thinking, oh, I'd like to work for her. I am too. I'm like, wow, she's great. There's a couple of things to that. One is, I'm a firm believer that women really do change leadership. And I want us to listen to how women lead differently. But the way that she's articulating and communicating how she leads is really important. If you're a leader and you're like, I do those things, practice saying it out loud, right? Because if other people don't know what you're thinking about how you build your team, why you lead it that way, then it just sort of ends with you. And so I really admire you, Brandy, for your beautiful articulation of how you make these decisions, how you actually create inclusivity. It's not just something that happens. And then also how you're empowering some of your senior leaders to lead, right? So really being able to, part of it is being able to make those types of decisions, but really a large part of it is to be able to communicate out loud that those are the types of decisions that you're making. So I applaud you for that.
360 swivel. I've got a whiteboard beside me, and it's written in very big, bold letters, how we communicate what we're doing and why it's important matters. And that's something that I I translate to my team on a daily basis. We've shortened it to be like, what are we doing? Why is it important? But it goes not just to our work, it also goes to how we work. And like I just explained, making sure my team knows I'm trying to elevate your leadership opportunities, and I'm trying to, integrate you successfully into the team and make sure you have what you need. And because they need to hear that that's my intention, and that it matters. So there's always that translation, and my team is amazing at translating back that mantra. What are we doing? Why is it important?
Yeah.
And it's become a really big part of how we work here.
It's so important. And also what I love about that is that it's not like you came up with this great idea about what we are doing and why is it important, and then you like told them from top down. You're like, no, I have conversation with them on a regular basis about what are we doing and why is it important, versus like we create that what and why together. And
Absolutely.
I think as a leader, it takes some of the pressure off of in the sense that you have to come up with all the great ideas and like have all the answers. But in reality, I think it's what's needed at the top is that we are looking for these more collaborative approaches. We are looking for leaders that really include us in the conversation and stuff. And so it's not just that it makes our lives easier, it's actually part of the deal, right? It's part
absolutely.
of the way that we inspire.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be told what to do every day, day in and day out. At least I don't.
Especially
anyway.
at these senior levels,
exactly.
Right? Like maybe in the beginning, it was great to just be told what to do and do your job and get out, and that was what we needed. But not, when we have a room full of very smart, very capable individuals, let's treat them as such.
Yeah, exactly. Using their perspective, learning what their perspective is, or what they are, and how they apply to what we're trying to do. So, yeah, that's where collaboration, I think, just comes as a natural progression of success. It's really a great model.
Yeah, so good. So, I mean, it feels like it's obvious, but I'd love to hear what your take on why you personally feel motivated to have that voice at the table. The reason why I say it feels like it's obvious is that it's hard to listen to you without seeing your passion, your desire for the work that you do, and the thought you put into it. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about that motivation for you internally.
Really and truly, Stacey, my leadership aspirations weren't, always there. I've honed those over the last several years, probably 5 to 7 years. It's really been a key focal point for me is to have that seat at the leadership table. But one of the motivators for me is gender diversity. And when I started in this industry 10 years ago, I was not a subject matter expert by any means. I was hired for my unique skills of public policy and advocacy work. And it was approached very early by a women in energy group. And a few of us got together and started chatting about how it would be great if we formalized this. And in no time, we had 12 women setting up an advisory board. We came up with a name called WIRE, Women in Renewable Energy. We incorporated, we organized, we built a really amazing networking group in a very short period of time. And the uptake was massive. So we were like, clearly there's a need for this. Gender diversity matters. We were very underrepresented in the energy industry in general, and then in renewables as well. Renewables is a very progressive industry, and from a technology perspective, but we still needed to bring a lot of women on for the ride. So gender diversity has been a huge motivator for me for a decade, in this role in particular. But I've had all male bosses my whole time, here, and it's always been a lot of men. Our board, even in different boards that I've sat on, have been a lot of men. But we're really seeing that focus on gender diversity, but more importantly, the translation of why it's important. It's not about just a token or about getting a number. It's really about, and we've mentioned it on this call already, talking through the value proposition that women bring. We bring empathy. We bring thought leadership in a way that is very unique and sometimes brand new to the leadership table. So I'm really motivated by that. I want recognition, not just for myself, but for other women, in recognizing that having women on your board, having women at your executive team does make a difference, and that gender diversity is real and valuable. It's valuable to a company's bottom line. It's valuable to the bigger picture, and we can't get enough of it. Translate that into diversity writ large, and we need more Indigenous representation, particularly in Canada. It's a really big focus for us here, and we need people of color and people of different ethnic backgrounds, and we definitely don't have enough of that. There's a lot of white, and we need We need a lot more. And so I'm motivated by diversity, but I'm motivated by the value that diversity brings and translating that back. So I have a lot of really great skill sets that are unique, and they're not specific to a technology or a technical background. They're diverse and unique. And I've come to learn that over the course of my 20 years working, or 20 plus years. I have to round it down. But there's definitely value in my voice. And I know that now.
Amazing. I love it. I can't tell if you're frozen.
Oh,
okay, good. I was like, I didn't want to
drop the mic and I'm done.
Yes, exactly. It sort of felt that way. It was really, really good. Amazing. Wow. So I really love what you said about you're committed to diversity, but the value that diversity brings. And I think for all of us, just really asking ourselves that question, like, what is the true value? And that is, I recently changed my podcast to Women Changing Leadership as the title and the brand of it. But really, it is an exploration for me of how do women truly change leadership, right? What is it that we're uniquely bringing to the table? And each one of these conversations as part of that series has really highlighted that for me and for my audience as well. And really to see, oh, you know what, that is actually true. That is different than what I'm experiencing on a regular basis at work in terms of my leadership. And so I really appreciate that perspective and that questioning, that curiosity.
Yeah, and it's great because we have, validation and quantification of those outcomes too. Like McKinsey puts out the report every year, and we have more people studying and quantifying it. And so those value propositions are being learned and understood and accepted, quite frankly, across, I think we'll call it corporate America, but North America writ large. And I think that, just that broader recognition will help to accelerate, I think, the uptake of having much more diversity at the boardroom table. They need to work hard to grow that. Sorry, my alarm is going off. That's the do not disturb alarm. Sorry.
Absolutely. So, okay. So to close out our conversation today, I'd love to hear more about other organizations that you're involved in. I'm sure that they're in terms of your leadership, but organizations that have helped inspire you over the years, just to kind of share what's out there to other people.
Absolutely. And, I talked a little bit about WIRE, Women in Renewable Energy. I served on their advisory board for 5 years, from day one through a 5-long-year period where we just grew and grew and grew. And WIRE is still very much an active and vibrant organization that I love to support. So Women in Renewable Energy, find your local chapter. It's something that I think that everybody should be aware of.
I want to pause you before we move on to the other thing, because I'm very curious. So I think this matters. So when we watch leaders like Brandy, who's very articulate and really seems like she's sort of always been this way. When you were involved with WIRE, you were a senior director, correct? Right?
I was
you
just
were still
a lowly director. Yeah.
A director. And I think that's really important, because it's not that it happens all at the same time. We get involved in these organizations, these greater missions, and start to become mentors and role models even before we're in the C-suite, right? So I just wanted to offer that perspective, because I knew that was true.
Yeah, and it's great. It's great recognition too, Stacey. Like, as a director, I was anxious and motivated and excited, but it wasn't to be the CEO at that point. It was like, well, how can I get back and learn and grow my network? And part of getting to the CEO suite is learning and growing your network. And so WIRE offered me that great opportunity. As a director, I had a little bit more free time on my hands, a little less work pressures kind of thing. So it was a good time to get back. You don't need to wait. A lot of students were interested in that, but we also really courted the C-suite for mentorship and leadership opportunities within that organization. I'm still very well connected with so many women from that group that were part of the advisory board, over the years. We have a alumni group called Rewire. We've sort of spun off of that, which is, it's a group of networks of friendships and mentorships and support and learning and growing. So we've continued to foster that growth network and support network. Serving on a board of directors for a local wind co-op was an amazing opportunity. I did a 1-year boards provide, and I really am motivated to continue to seek board roles, director roles, to continue to contribute my unique skill sets, whether it's in energy or elsewhere. I think I'm looking to broaden in my horizons around environmental and sustainable, focal points, whether it's, sustainability or ESG or whatever it might be. I think I have a lot to offer after 20 years, in particular 10 years in the energy industry. So I do that. Anytime my alumni association calls on me to do a speech or presentation, I'm happy to do it, and give back and making sure that people have access to me in the way of, whether it's just network or mentorship. And then going right back to my roots, when I very first, I guess, sort of real job, it was an internship out of university. I was an Ontario legislature internship. So it's called the OLIP program. And anytime they call on me, I'm happy to throw my hat into the ring as a mentor or as a guest speaker, and provide insight into my time in that internship and to give them advice, because it's something that I perceived as extremely valuable when I was an intern, and made a mental note way back then, 20 some odd years ago, to say, like, if they call on me, I'm going to do this. I'm going to come back and talk to the interns and talk to them about what I've learned and garnered over the years, because it was so valuable just to hear and see real career stories, when you're just starting out in the world is your oyster kind of thing. So just always wanting to communicate the art of the possible, share my experience and my story. And what I really gained from that as not just giving, but gaining, is that I see the impact it has. People tell me, oh my gosh, your story was so motivational, and thank you so much for sharing, and please keep telling people. So I do get some value out of it as well. So I know that it's having an impact, and that matters to me. So time well spent, and happy to continue to serve in that role.
I agree. It has been very impactful, and your story is incredibly inspiring. So thank you so much for being here today. And if you would like to watch the other videos in the series, I will link in the comments to our YouTube playlist so that you can watch all of the other videos. Incredibly inspiring. It's really important to surround ourselves by role models, people that we really do want to emulate in our careers. And we have that choice. That is within your power to put yourself into like in your earbuds every single week, listening to the people that inspire you the most. So Brandy, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Stacey. Thanks for being that inspiring voice in my ears once a week or more.
Thank you.